But first, they are changes that will affect millions across the country. But campaigners say that young deaf people will be especially hard hit by the new system of disability payments. They claim the new criteria mean that the vast majority of deaf young people won't be able to access the money they need, leaving thousands struggling to pay for extra tuition and health visits. Katie Razzle has been speaking to some of the young people who'll be affected.
I just feel it's important that deaf young people should be able to say what they want loud and clear so that hearing people can understand, so that the government can understand, because you have to be deaf to actually experience what it's like.
I can do it, I've got brain in there, I've got confidence. She goes, I'm going to prove it to people that I can do it, and deaf people can do it.
All three of these deaf youngsters can do it in a quieter world than many of ours. Bethany Eason is 15 and always on the move. In her GCSE year, she's a campaigner for a deaf children's charity and is devoted to dance.
Oh, I've just knocked you, sorry.
It was at ballet her family noticed their 3-year-old couldn't keep in time to the music. Aged 4, Bethany had a cochlear implant fitted.
Things are really sound like a bit robotic and tinny, so everyone sounds a bit like robots because it's not perfect.
Because of that, and because she often gets ear infections, Bethany regularly has to go to the specialist cochlear centre an hour from her home in the Wirral. At the moment, her travel is funded by the soon-to-be-abolished Disability Living Allowance. It's being replaced for 16-year-olds and over by the Personal Independence Payment, or PIP, and Bethany's worried she won't get it.
Pop your feet in first.
I have to either get the bus or the train, or I have to go by car, and it costs a bomb. I feel really upset and annoyed that I'm not going to be getting these benefits because they are vital to part of my life, part of my, daily life, and, having to go to Manchester is something that I need to do. And if I don't do that, then I'm really going to struggle with my hearing.
Bethany doesn't need sign language to communicate, but she's learning so she can talk to deaf youngsters who do. Here she's telling the teacher about her holiday in Mallorca. Eloquent and clearly very able, perhaps it's right to question whether youngsters with so much going for them like Bethany should receive money from the taxpayer.
Of course there are going to be vulnerable people who will still continue to need a lot of support, but many disabled people are not vulnerable. They just want to be able to be supported in practical ways to play a part in society, and I think that's the aim behind these reforms.
But campaigners argue because the majority of hearing impaired people don't use sign as their first language, they won't get the new benefit.
One charity says it believes a high proportion of deaf youngsters who currently get disability living allowance won't be eligible for a PIP when they turn 16 because the criteria have changed. And they say deaf children are already losing out in other ways.
Across England, we've seen a third of councils cut specialist help that deaf children get in schools. This is really starting to impact on their attainment. We've seen their GCSE results drop for the first time since 2007. We're getting parents contacting us very worried about the futures for their children.
22-year-old Mamuna is profoundly deaf. Her 4-year-old sister Amani has a cochlear implant. One's just started school, the other's about to finish university. And Mamuna has only praise for the teachers of the deaf who helped her through her school career.
Do you think you would have got to university without that extra support?
No. If I didn't get the support, I wouldn't have built my confidence and I wouldn't have achieved to get to university level. It is really hard.
Mamuna showed off the animation project she created for her graphic design degree, sounds and all. She had a full-time teacher of the deaf to support her through school. Her sister gets 20 hours a week from a teaching assistant and a visit from a teacher of the deaf each month. The family and others in the area claim their local council, like others across the country, is cutting the number of these specialist teachers it employs, and that's bad for children.
When you look at your 4-year-old sister, what do you think about her chances for the future?
Because I'm really worried, because with what council is doing, she's not going to get to my level. And what I got before was really good, and looking at it now, they should really stop what they're doing.
Kirklees Council says it's simply reallocating resources to where they're needed, and no deaf child will lose out.
Parents shouldn't worry, because more time from expert teachers of the deaf will be able to be where their children are in mainstream classes to enable them to achieve what they're capable of, and this is certainly not about budget cuts.
These youngsters will shape their own destinies, but may need a little help to do so. And what the government does nationally and locally could make all the difference to the adults they become.